The desert night clamped down on us as our unmarked van crawled toward the coordinates. Dugways sprawled in every direction, a whole lot of nothing perfect for hiding things they didn't want found. I ran through my gear one last time. Signal sniffers, jammers, the souped-up comms rig I'd tweaked for this job. Good to go. Simple plan. Get in, grab Dr. Rostova, get paid. The place had gone completely dark 3 days ago. Captain Miller, running this show, studied the entrance ahead, just a concrete box poking up from the dirt like a forgotten grave marker. His face didn't give anything away. Never did. Lynn, comms. His voice was low, clipped. I thumbed my headset. Comms green, Cap. Local nets only till I get our uplink humming inside. Miller grunted and turned to the others. Diaz, point. Peterson, 6. Breach and clear drill. Rostova's the only box we tick tonight. Diaz punched in the security codes we'd been fed. The heavy blast door opened smooth and easy, too easy. No sirens, no guards, just a dark throat swallowing itself downward. We stepped in. Fluorescence buzzed to life overhead. Behind us, the door sealed shut with a soft, final hiss. And then, nothing. The quiet hit like a physical thing. No echo from our movements, no distant thrum of fans or power, just dead air pressing hard against my eardrums. Jesus, Peterson breathed, his whisper weirdly sharp in the stillness. Feels like we're inside a coffin. Acoustic dampening, I explained, brushing my gloved fingers over the fibrous wall panel. Top shelf stuff, whole place is packed with it. Eat sound for breakfast. We pushed deeper. Our boots landed silently on the floor tiles. The air tasted recycled, sterile and metallic, like licking an old pipe. The long corridor fed into a security checkpoint. Monitors flickered, showing empty hallways, labs, bunks, all lit, all quiet. Place looks switched on, Diaz murmured, checking the security station's blank screens. No sign of trouble, no packs abandoned, no busted doors. I claimed the security desk, pulling out my gear. Our comms net flickered to life. I tried pinging the facility's guts. Everything powered up, linked into the local grid without a fuss. Systems operational, I reported. My eyes scanned the spectrum analyzer's glowing display. But the dead quiet, it's not right. A joint this size should have buzz, transformer hum, server whine, something. It's like the whole place is holding its breath. Miller pointed his rifle light down the main corridor. Central lab complex. Rostova's last ping was there. The deeper we went, the heavier the silence sat. Our whispered comms traffic sounded intimate, intrusive, like someone speaking directly into your ear canal. Peterson froze, his light beam jerking sideways. Sir, look. A splash of dark crimson marred the clean white acoustic panel. A handprint, still tacky looking, smeared downward like someone had been scrabbling along the wall as they fell. Miller approached it, didn't touch. Fresh, within the last couple days. No sign of a fight, Diaz added, sweeping his light across the bare corridor. Instinct kicked in. I pulled my detection wand, running it over the bloodstain, hunting for EM spikes, comm residues, anomalies, and that's when the little screen flickered. High up, way past normal comms bands. A faint signal, more like a ghost feeling than a sound. Got something, I muttered, twisting dials. Frequencies way off the charts, almost ultrasonic, translating for screen visualization. The waveform scrawled across the display. As I locked on, the pressure in my ears spiked. That deep airplane descent pop without the relief. "What are we looking at?" Miller asked, voice tight. I shook my head. "Never seen a spike like this. Could be a fried circuit board somewhere. Could be architecture." I logged the coordinates automatically. Priority, low. Anomalous signal, for later. Logging it might be a quirk of the build. We moved on, following the corridor. The faint signal buzzed at the edge of my gear's hearing. Peterson's head kept snapping toward every doorway, his rifle tracking nothing. "Anyone else feel eyes?" His whisper cracked. "Negative," Miller's reply was rock solid. "Focus, Peterson." But in that perfect, smothering quiet, with that impossible thrum scratching somewhere deep in my skull, I couldn't quite dismiss it. Not eyes, ears. The thought slithered in. I crushed it. There'd be an explanation. Tech fritzes, stress, acoustic tricks. There had to be. My gear chirped softly as the strange frequency flickered. There, then gone. Just a blip on the readout. Equipment hiccup, I told myself. Pull apart the logs later. I didn't yet know how wrong I was. "Lynn, eyes up. We're pushing deeper." Miller's voice cut through my focus. "Stow your gear." I gave a curt nod, disconnecting leads and packing my scanner and analyzer back into its padded case, trying to ignore the signal's ghost image fading in my mind. That jumpy feeling from just minutes ago, like something staring while the gear spat out nonsense readings. I pushed it down. Work. We moved down the main corridor. The silence here wasn't just absence. It felt solid, pushing in. Our own sounds, the clink of gear, the scuff of boots on the treated floor, felt unnervingly loud, like trespassing in a sacred tomb. According to my briefing holo, the central hub branched off into long halls leading to specialized labs. We passed an unmanned checkpoint, blast doors already retracted fully. No scuffs, no casings on the floor. Whatever happened never made it to the gates. No forced entry at all. "Okay, this is seriously creeping me out," Diaz muttered, lowering his rifle slightly as we entered a wide research area. Workstations everywhere, frozen in time. Someone's cold coffee sat beside a keyboard, a brown ring staining a data sheet. A chair lay toppled beside another station. Life interrupted, mid-thought. One tablet screen blinked serenely, stuck on a saver. How the hell was its battery still going after 72 hours? Miller jabbed a finger at Peterson. "Sweep it." While Peterson started checking the connecting offices with a quiet intensity, I moved to the nearest workstation. A nudge of the mouse woke the screen, complex coding sequences alongside audio analysis software. People logged in, working. "Sir," I called over. "Systems are live. Active user sessions logged. Whatever grabbed them, it wasn't a planned shutdown. No burning bush, just a brick through the window." Miller's jaw tightened. "Can you pull security feeds?" I grabbed the mouse, clicking aggressively through menus. Nothing. "Access denied. Main archives for the past week look like fried eggs, just static." Peterson reappeared, face pale under the harsh fluorescence. "Clear for breathing souls, Cap, but the mess hall, you need to see it." The cafeteria was gut-churning. Plates sat abandoned with decaying food, sandwiches curled like autumn leaves, salads liquefied into brown sludge. The air recyclers hummed, fighting a losing battle against the sickly sweet stench of putrefaction that punched through our masks. 3 days of rot. 3 days exactly. Diaz said darkly, tapping a sleek digital calendar display on the wall. Time stamped. Whatever it was punched the clock Friday lunch hour. I checked my mission chrono. 14 or 23 hours, lunar link, Monday. Over 72 hours since the lights stayed on, but life signing off entirely. Like they just poofed, Peterson breathed, his voice thin with tension. Sweat glistened on his temple, unnatural in the cool, processed air. Miller lifted a fist, the signal to halt and consolidate. We took positions in the grim cafeteria entrance. Seizing the moment, I booted my portable analyzer again, sweeping for that phantom frequency. Nothing, just the humming void pressing in on us. "I don't like the air in here," Peterson whispered, tugging at his collar. "Recycled air," I countered, forcing calm. "Always tastes like old pennies this deep." "Not the taste," he insisted, eyes darting like birds caught in a room. "The weight of it. Weight." He was right. The silence wasn't just soundless. It was dense, thick enough to lean against. But feeding the rookie's nerves was bad OPSEC. "Stick to the objective, Corporal," I said, firm but low. The sound ripped the dead air apart, heavy, metallic, final, the unmistakable boom of a vault door slamming shut, immediately followed by the sharp, echoing clack of thick locks engaging solidly. It vibrated the floor, impossibly loud against the silence. We froze. Weapons snapped up, safeties clicking off almost in unison. We scanned the empty corridor mouths, ears ringing from the sudden concussion. "Origin," Miller hissed. "East," Diaz clipped, just as I said, "West." We swapped quick, confused stares. "Below," Peterson choked out, trembling violently. "Sounded like it came up through the floor." Miller's face was stone. "Lynn," Diaz with me. "East corridor. Peterson, hold this position. Stay sharp." We moved slow, low, clearing labs, supply nests, even a tiny janitorial alcove. Nothing. No giant doors capable of that sound. Every blast door we found was either wide open or clearly hadn't moved its massive hinges in months. After 20 minutes of creeping through a tomb within a tomb, we regrouped with Peterson. "East sector clear," I reported. "No sound source found. No fresh door movement. Nothing." "Bullshit!" Peterson burst out, his voice cracking. "We all heard it, right? Get a grip, soldier!" Miller's command was iron. I ran another scan, every channel, passive and active. Air pressure, stable. Vent flows, normal. Structural tremors, nothing. "Sir, logically, pressure shifts in big ducting systems can emulate mechanical sounds." I trailed off. It sounded pathetic even to me. "Emulate that?" Diaz snorted derisively. That was 20 tons of reinforced steel kissing its frame. My teeth rattled. He was right. Again, nothing registered on my gear. Less than nothing. Not even a flicker. That absence, combined with 4 hardened operators experiencing the exact same impossible sound simultaneously. That cold pit in my stomach got a little wider. "Main research base," Miller decided, making an abrupt pivot. "Dr. Rostova's shop. Move." The central lab was the facility's nerve center. More humming gear, more flashing screens showing arrested data streams, more sudden emptiness. "Sir?" I called, spotting something half-hidden under a console. A tablet, screen spider-webbed with cracks but still glowing softly. I eased it out, my fingers brushing over something tacky on the casing edge. dried blood. Rust-brown flakes against the matte black. Security lock. Standard protocols. My override tools had it unlocked in seconds. Rostova's research directory popped up. Audio files, experimental logs, data reports. Most were corrupted digital soup, but fragments survived, bile scrawled warnings. Rostova's files, I said, squinting at the damaged text. Scraps, mentions biosonic signatures, capturing them, amplification. Miller leaned in. English translation required. Recording natural body sounds, I explained, my throat tight. Heartbeats, brain waves maybe, vocalizations, amplifying them huge, looking for patterns linked to specific intense states. Fear, probably. Diaz shifted his grip on his rifle. Weaponry? Possible. I tapped a badly fragmented section. This part, something about a critical failure with subject 0. Whatever it says next, it's gone. Then warnings. Containment procedures breached, and this phrase, resonance collapse event, whatever that means. Peterson, ever restless, had drifted towards the far wall, dominated by a metal aperture framing a large spherical chamber made of some incredibly thick layered polymer. It looked obscene. What the hell is this monster? I walked over, my boots clicking unnervingly loud on the pristine floor. Experimental sound chamber, vacuum-sealed, vibration-damped, perfect for capturing pure, uncontaminated audio samples. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. I raised my handheld scanner towards the observation window set into the sphere's side. My device, silent since the vault door mirage, suddenly chirped, sharp and urgent. That same impossible frequency flared across the tiny screen, not a blip, not static, a waveform, complex, structured, rhythmic, rising, falling, rising again. Something is wrong here, I breathed, my voice barely audible. The signal pulsed, a slow, impossible rhythm, like a heartbeat, like breathing. Sir, I started to turn towards Miller, scanning the spectral data on my pad. I strongly recommend A deafening, shrieking tone erupted. It wasn't heard so much as it was injected directly into the base of our skulls. A single, impossibly high, piercing sound that felt like an ice spike driven deep into the mastoid bone behind my ear. All four of us cried out, hands clamping to ears, staggering back involuntarily. My analyzer display flared, panicking into meaningless snow. As suddenly as it had erupted, it was gone. Just gone. What in the world was that? Diaz gasped, high tensile steel in his voice fraying into pain. My gaze locked onto my analyzer screen, my hands shaking now. Blank, smooth. No signal spike, no energy surge, no diagnostics flags. Nothing to explain the screaming agony still echoing faintly in the bones of my head. The machine showed a quiet corridor. My nerves screamed ghost claws. "Lynn," Miller demanded. His voice was flat command, controlled, but his eyes held a sliver of something new, not fear maybe, apprehension, a question he rarely needed to ask. For the first time since diving into this silent tomb, since encountering that first weird blip and unsettling feeling, I had no tech answers. No circuit diagrams, no spectrum analysis, no known phenomena. Just the hollow realization that the tools in my hands were suddenly useless. Worse, they lied. "I don't know, sir," I admitted, the words chalk dry in my mouth. No registration, no alert triggers. I got nothing on that noise. Nothing at all. The silence that returned felt different. charged somehow, thicker. Not the absence of sound, but a presence waiting in it. Listening. Peterson suddenly flinched backwards against the curved chamber wall, snapping his head towards the lab doorway we'd just cleared. His eyes were saucers. Did you hear that? He breathed, pure terror dissolving the whisper into almost nothing. We froze. Didn't matter that we were professionals, weapons ready. We held our collective breath, straining against the oppressive quiet. "Hear what, Corporal?" Miller asked, his voice dangerously low. Peterson looked like he might puke. "My name," he choked out. "Someone just whispered my name, right behind me." Diaz barked a harsh, disbelieving laugh. "You're cracked. We're alone. Total sweep." But seeing the raw, primal fear twist Peterson's face, something unknotted in my gut. Logic fought a losing battle, trapped sonic reverberations tricking the inner ear, undetectable gear glitch hopscotching comms, mass hallucination from pressure. For the first time, a terrifying alien question shoved its way past hardened rationality, breaking the surface with the sharpness of ice cracking. What if the quiet wasn't empty? What if it was full of something we just didn't know how to measure? And worse, what if it was studying us, just as hard as we were studying it? Peterson's question hung thick in the dead air, heavier than the silence itself. Miller and Diaz swapped a look, the kind soldiers give each other when facing something that makes no sense. Nobody wanted to touch what it meant. The quiet stretched until Miller cleared his throat, the sound sharp in the unnatural hush. "Focus on the mission," he said, his voice steady but tight. "Lynn, can you pull anything else from Rostova's files?" I turned gratefully back to my gear, glad for something solid to do. "I'll try, Captain, but whatever hit this place fried most of the system bad. It's like something burned through the circuits." As I worked, that damn high-pitched whine kept buzzing at the edge of my hearing. Not loud enough to distract, just present, like the feeling you get when you're positive someone's staring at the back of your head. I fiddled with the earpiece nestled firmly in my ear canal, pressing it deeper, but the sound wasn't coming through it. It seemed to come from the air itself, buzzing inside my skull. "Sound off," Miller ordered abruptly. "Diaz, copy," came the immediate gravelly reply. "Peterson, copy." Peterson's confirmation sounded shaky. "Lynn, copy." I frowned. My own word hit my ear again a fraction of a second later, a faint ghostly echo. Our encrypted closed channel shouldn't have that. I tapped my earpiece mic. "Captain, comms are breaking up. Might be interference from the base systems." "Fix it," Miller snapped. "Working on it." I pulled up the diagnostic screen on my portable rig. Green lights blinked back at me. Nominal frequencies, secure encryption key cycling, no outside signals leaking in. Clean bill of health. Yet, the echo persisted. I recalibrated frequencies. High band, low band, mid. I scanned for rogue transmissions blanketing the spectrum. Ran integrity checks on every piece of gear in the network. Nothing. Utterly nothing. "Comms should be clean now," I announced, fighting to keep my voice steady. It felt like a lie. Whatever was happening was outside my playbook, but admitting that felt like failing the first real test of the op. "Move out," Miller commanded. "Next sector." We pushed deeper into the husk of the facility, following the fragmented digital trail left in Rostova's corrupted files toward the primary acoustic chamber. The silence didn't just press in, it swallowed everything. Our own footsteps got sucked down the foam-lined corridors the instant our boots lifted off the concrete. breathing was unnaturally loud inside the sealed helmets. "Lynn, hold up!" Miller's voice suddenly crackled, sharp and clear, right in my ear. I jerked to a stop, turning back towards him, but Miller was 20 feet ahead, still moving, scanning the corridor. "Sir?" I asked, confusion turning my stomach. Miller halted, turning. His expression behind the visor shifted from focus to confusion. "I didn't say anything." "I heard you," I insisted, my pulse kicking up. "Clear as day. Lynn, hold up." "Wasn't me," Miller stated, a hard edge creeping into his voice. A cold prickle ran up my neck as Diaz cut in. "Heard it too, Cap. Sounded just like you. Did..." Peterson's breathing huffed louder over the comms, ragged and quick. "This ain't right. Ain't right at all." "Lynn," Miller demanded, turning his full attention on me. "What the hell is wrong with our gear?" I shook my head, my palms suddenly clammy inside my gloves. "I don't know, Captain. There is no tech reason for this. Diagnostics scream perfection. It's impossible." "That's not good enough," Miller snapped, frustration cracking through his usual control. "Figure it out." I swallowed. What did he want me to say? That the quiet had grown teeth? That the ghosts in the machine preferred mimicry? The thought felt absurd, but it clung stubbornly to my gut. "New rule," Miller ordered, voice tight with forced authority. "Visual confirmation before acting on any audio command. Nobody moves on comms alone, understood?" A chorus of shaky confirmations came back. We moved forward, a thick layer of suspicion grafting itself onto the existing dread. Every intake of breath over the comms sounded sinister. 10 silent minutes crawled by before the next blow landed. Running full scan on Northeast Corridor, my own voice stated calmly over the comms. I froze mid-step, my throat locked. That was me. My exact technical cadence, the tone I used for status reports. Except I hadn't opened my mouth. I hadn't thought the command. It was like listening to my own recording. "That wasn't me!" My real voice ripped out, pitched higher, edged with panic. The contrast with the Phantom's calm diction was jarring. "What the hell?" Diaz barked, spinning, weapon coming half up. "Someone's in the system!" Peterson shrilled, his terror vibrating down the line. "Watching us! Listening!" "There is no someone," Miller cut in, sharp enough to silence him. "It's an effect. Psych war tech. Some automated system playing tricks." His words carried the force of command doctrine, the only thing left to grasp onto. I desperately wanted to grab that explanation. Hardware messing with heads. That fit my world. Tech could be countered. But if it was tech, why couldn't my gear find it? Why couldn't my tools touch it? The dissonance was a physical ache. "Lynn!" Peterson yelled, spinning wildly, bringing his rifle all the way up to his shoulder, finger damn near the trigger. "Did you just call my name? He breathed it, right in my ear!" "No," I said carefully, my own weapon hand twitching towards the controls. "Nobody spoke, Peterson." "Yes," he nearly screamed. "Sounded just like you." Whispered Eric. I felt the goddamned breath. Cold. He swiped viciously at the side of his helmet like he was batting away an insect. Miller stepped swiftly between us, a solid barrier. "Grip it now, Peterson." "I'm not losing it." Peterson's voice climbed, cracking with stress. "Someone whispered my name right into my ear. I felt it." "Only us here," Diaz rumbled, though his knuckles were white where he gripped his weapon, his posture unnaturally rigid. Driven by a frantic need to find something tangible, something I could fix, I turned back to my portable console. My fingers flew over the keys, calling up the spectrum analyzer again. Forget the comms diagnostics. There had to be something lurking in the noise floor, bleeding over. I pushed the sweep wider, hunting the ultrasonic bands where that initial hum lived. And then it appeared. In the high-frequency void, a pattern pulsed, flickering like a faint strobing light. It wasn't random background noise. It possessed shape, intent. It looked like the squiggly waveforms of human speech, carrying our words, but reflected through a shattered mirror, distorted, compressed, alien, listening, echoing. "I've got something," I announced, my voice tight. "A signal, high-band ultrasonic. It's copying our voices, real time." "Can you jam it? Block it?" Miller asked, the pragmatic solution. "I'm trying," I started, then froze. My screen flickered violently. The waveform I was viewing didn't just glow, it pulsed like it was breathing. As I stared, lines of text scrolled across the display, cold, sterile words my fingers hadn't typed. Analyzing subject Lynn, Andre, vocal pattern, acquisition complete, thought pattern processing initiated. The words vanished instantly. An electric jolt shot through me. I stumbled back from the console as if it had burned me. The ground wasn't stable anymore. The framework of wires and circuits felt flimsy, irrelevant. My logical mind buckled. "It's not a psych war system," I heard myself say, the words hollow, tasting like ash. "It's not tech, at least not like we understand it. It's alive, and it's learning us." "Lynn, secure those comms," Miller ordered, but even he couldn't hide the tremor of desperation scaling his voice. "I can't!" I shouted back, the admission ripping loose. It wasn't technical failure. It was fundamental defeat. "Whatever this is, it operates outside anything I know how to counter." As if confirming its victory, acknowledging my understanding, a synchronized, agonizing whine shrieked through all our earpieces simultaneously, a physical blow to the brain. We grabbed our helmets, teeth clenched against the bone-deep vibration that swelled into tinnitus shrieking. It held us there, prisoners of pain, for merciful seconds that felt like hours. Then, it stopped. Silence crashed back in, and a single voice spoke. Clear, cold, alien in its terrible precision, delivered simultaneously to all of us through the ruined comms. "I hear you." The words hung in the dead air, thick as blood. We stared at each other across the 3 feet separating us, faces pale beneath visors slick with condensation. No sound but our ragged breaths and the frantic drumming of our own hearts, the same silent, unutterable horror screaming from our eyes. What had we truly walked into? And worse, far worse, what was it learning now? The unnatural silence hung thick after those 3 crushing words. "I hear you." Each syllable had slammed into my skull through the comms, too crisp, too measured, like something foreign testing stolen vocal cords for the first time. Miller shattered the quiet, his voice unusually tight. "Lynn, kill everything non-essential, now." My hands moved without thought, flicking switches on my kit, shutting it all down except the bare essentials. Tactical display, emergency comms. The sergeant in me, the one with 8 years active duty and countless contracts under his belt, flailed for an explanation. Science, physics, electronic warfare, anything solid. "We push on," Miller commanded, sharp and hard against the ringing void inside our helmets. "Alternate route to her lab. Find Rostova. Get out. Fast." Peterson snorted, a brittle cracking sound. "You really think we're walking out of here, Cap?" "Shut it now," Diaz snapped, but the usual bite was gone, replaced by a raw edge. "Take point, sir. I've got 6. We squeezed into a narrow service tunnel running alongside the main passage, just like the blueprints showed. It was a tight fit, single file. Thick pipes snaked along the walls, ductwork groaned overhead. Perfect for echoes. And it's listening. Maybe hearing thoughts? I shoved the idea down hard. Mind reading? Impossible. Had to be psychoacoustics. Ultrasonics mimicking internal dialogue. I clung to that lifeline. Miller threw up a clenched fist at a junction. We stopped. The corridor branched, straight towards Lab Complex B, or right towards our target, the central recording chamber. Right, Miller decided. Rostova has no build-up, no warning, just silence. Then a physical wall of sound hit us like a freight train. It slammed into Diaz first. It threw him backward like a rag doll, crashing him into Peterson. Both men went down hard, a tangle of limbs and clattering gear. Miller braced against the wall, but it hammered him down onto his knees, hands instinctively slamming over the ears inside his helmet. The force punched through me. It buzzed in my bones, my teeth. My gear absorbed some, but the pressure still shoved me backwards, boots shrieking on the floor. Then came the tone, high, biting, impossibly sharp. It bypassed my ears entirely, drilling straight into the base of my skull. My vision blurred. Something warm and wet spattered my visor. Nosebleed. A frantic glance showed crimson streaks under Miller's jaw. Peterson gagged violently inside his mask. Diaz was gone, swallowed by the corridor behind us. Sheer instinct cut through the blinding pain. I fumbled my handheld analyzer, slapped it live. Blinking through stinging eyes, the screen flared. Not random noise. Dense, intricate wave patterns. Repeating. Structured. Not chaotic static, but purposeful. Like a language etched in vibration. "It's conscious," I choked, tasting copper. "The sound. It's deliberate." Miller didn't respond. He was on all fours, blood dripping onto the polished floor under his chin. Peterson had curled into a ball, clawing at his helmet sides like he wanted to tear it off. Then, stillness. Just like that. The crushing pressure vanished. The skull-drilling shriek died. The sudden quiet was almost as terrifying. We stayed frozen, braced for another hit. Seconds dragged. Miller finally hauled himself up, swaying dangerously. "Talk to me," he rasped, his voice sandpaper rough. "Green, somehow," I lied automatically, my head pounding, ears ringing like bells. Peterson rolled onto his back, gasping like he'd been drowning. "What the holy hell was that?" "Diaz!" Miller barked into his mic. "Report position!" Static hissed, then his transmission cut through. "Near Charlie 7. Damn thing. Blasted me halfway down." Diaz's voice was strained, ragged. "Stay put. We're coming up." "Captain." Diaz's voice dropped, thick with something heavier than fear. "When I was down, busted up, I heard. Wasn't comms. Inside my head. The silence on the channel was thick enough to drown in. "What did it say?" I asked, already dreading it. "Said..." Diaz paused, his breathing harsh in my ear. "Said Miller's gonna leave me behind. Says he knows I'm dead weight. Collateral." The last words were ragged shards. Miller's face hardened like rock. "Bullcrap, Diaz. Regimented lies. You know the drill." "Yeah," Diaz answered after a beat that stretched too long. "Yeah, I know." But the fault line was there, clear as the blood on his faceplate when we found him later. This thing hadn't just hit us with a sonic hammer. It had pinpointed our weakest link, the trust holding us together, and started chipping away with a chisel. Backtracking towards Charlie 7 to find Diaz, my brain reeled. No automated system did this. Picked Diaz as a target, isolated him just to slide that toxin into his thoughts. It was thinking ahead, making cold, calculated moves. Every logical explanation I'd clutched at dissolved like smoke. Whatever hunted us wasn't just a weapon. It was a predator. Smart, ruthless, one that could crawl right into our skulls. And here we were, miles under dirt, trapped in its belly, hunting for one ghost while carrying the seeds of our own unraveling. We turned the corner into Charlie 7. Diaz sat slumped against the wall, rifle clutched tight against his chest like a scared kid's toy. His eyes flicked to Miller through his bloodied visor. Something flickered there. Doubt. Just a flash, quickly buried, but undeniable. Poison taking root. The monster hadn't just wounded us in that corridor. It had aimed its real attack at our minds, and it had drawn first blood. Miller wiped blood from his nose with the back of his glove. "On your feet, Diaz. We move." His tone left no room for argument, but I could see the effort it took Diaz to pry himself from the wall. The confidence that had defined him was fracturing. Peterson's eyes darted between shadows that weren't there, his breathing shallow and quick. "I need to run a systems check," I said, more to break the silence than out of necessity. My equipment was working fine. Too fine. The readings were clearer than ever, which only confirmed what I already knew. This wasn't a technical malfunction. "Make it quick," Miller ordered, keeping his weapon trained down the corridor we'd come through. I pretended to check my analyzer while studying the map of the facility. We're close to the central lab. Whatever this thing is, it's strongest near the core of the facility. The signature intensifies as we approach Section D12. "Rostova's primary research space," Miller confirmed. "We find that, we find her." The floor plans showed a large central chamber surrounded by observation rooms. I didn't say what we were all thinking, that we were voluntarily walking toward the heart of whatever was hunting us. 5 minutes, Miller said. "We move together, tight formation. Lynn, you stay center. I want continuous readings. Peterson, watch our 6. Peterson nodded mechanically, but his eyes never settled in one place. The journey to D12 felt like walking through molasses. Every step was heavier than the last, the air thicker. The silence had transformed from merely oppressive to malevolent. It wasn't just the absence of sound. It was sound's predator. We approached a set of heavy pressure doors with Acoustic Research Lab stenciled across in faded red lettering. Miller raised his fist, and we halted. He motioned for Diaz to take point on the door breach. Diaz hesitated, just for a second, before moving into position. That hesitation spoke volumes. The doors parted with a pneumatic hiss that seemed obscenely loud after the silence. Beyond lay a cavernous, spherical chamber. The walls were lined with thousands of small, pyramid-shaped acoustic dampeners, creating a dizzying, hypnotic pattern. At the center stood what looked like a glass isolation booth, shattered from within, surrounded by monitoring equipment. And blood. So much blood. It had dried to a rusty brown on the floor, splattered in wide arcs across equipment and walls. Not the chaotic pattern of combat. This was the aftermath of something more deliberate. "Jesus Christ," Peterson whispered. Miller indicated a workstation across the room. "Lynn, see what you can pull. Diaz, secure the perimeter. Peterson with me." I moved to the computer terminal, which was still active. Unlike the fragmented tablet we'd found earlier, this system appeared intact. My fingers flew over the keyboard, accessing Dr. Rostova's secure files. "I'm in," I announced. "These are Rostova's primary research logs." Miller joined me at the terminal, while Diaz checked the adjacent rooms. Peterson stood frozen, staring at the shattered glass booth. The files were organized chronologically. Project Resonance, a classified DARPA initiative exploring non-lethal acoustic weaponry. Early entries detailed conventional research, directional sound cannons, infrasonic crowd control, the usual suspects. Then came Subject Zero. They were recording human stress responses, I explained, scanning through the data. Monitoring brain activity during extreme auditory stimulation. Subject Zero was a volunteer, military background, high tolerance for stress. I opened a video file dated 3 days ago. The last entry. Dr. Rostova appeared on screen, her face gaunt with exhaustion and something else. Fear. "Test sequence 47 has produced unprecedented results," she said into the camera. "Subject Zero's neural patterns have somehow imprinted onto the acoustic matrix itself. The sound is learning, replicating. We can no longer shut it down. It's becoming self-sustaining, feeding on ambient vibrations and..." She looked over her shoulder. "And thoughts. God help us. It's reading our thoughts." The video cut to static. "What the hell does that mean?" Miller demanded. I scrolled through more files, piecing it together. They were recording the sound of pure terror, the exact acoustic signature of a human being in absolute distress. Subject Zero died during the experiment. His final scream, it did something, overloaded the system. "A scream can't become alive," Diaz said from across the room, but his voice lacked conviction. "Not alive," I corrected, the horror of understanding washing over me. "Sentient. They amplified a dying man's terror until it achieved a kind of consciousness. It imprinted on the facility's structure. It's in the walls, the air, everywhere. And it's hungry." Peterson made a strangled sound. When we turned, he was trembling violently, eyes fixed on Diaz. "Peterson," Miller said carefully, "you good?" "It's in him," Peterson whispered. "Can't you hear it? The sound is inside him now." Diaz took a step back. "What the hell are you talking about? I can hear it whispering through you." Peterson's voice rose hysterically. "You're not Diaz anymore. You're its puppet." Everything happened too fast. Peterson lunged forward, combat knife drawn. Diaz raised his weapon defensively. Miller moved with practiced efficiency, tackling Peterson from the side. They crashed into a monitoring station, equipment shattering beneath them. Peterson fought with inhuman strength, screaming about the voices, about how we were all compromised. It took both Miller and me to subdue him, pinning his thrashing body to the floor as he foamed at the mouth, eyes rolling wildly. "Hold him down," Miller ordered, pulling a sedative injector from his med kit. The hypodermic hissed as he pressed it against Peterson's neck. Gradually, the struggling subsided. "Secure him," Miller said, his voice flat. "Zip ties. Full restraint protocol." As we bound Peterson's limbs, I noticed Diaz staring at the isolation booth. His expression was unreadable behind his visor, but his posture had changed, a subtle shift that put my nerves on edge. "The signal's getting stronger," I said, checking my analyzer. The readings were off the charts, the waveform becoming more complex, more intentional. "It's watching us, learning." "Can we shut it down?" Miller asked. I glanced at the research note still displayed on the screen, then at Peterson's unconscious form. "I don't know, but it's feeding on our fear, and it's only getting stronger." Miller nodded grimly. "Then we find Rostova. Now." As we prepared to move deeper into the facility, the high-frequency tone that had dogged us since entry shifted subtly. If I didn't know better, I'd have sworn it was laughing. We zip-tied Peterson's wrists and ankles, his body slumped against the wall like broken gear. Miller had pumped him full of sedative from the med kit, enough to keep him quiet for hours. Staring at Peterson's slack face felt too much like looking into a cracked mirror. "What now, Captain?" Diaz asked. His voice was hushed, like volume itself was dangerous. Peterson's knife lay on the floor nearby, a sharp piece of evidence for the court-martial of our sanity. Miller checked the chamber on his rifle, his eyes darting everywhere except towards the oppressive chrome sphere dominating the lab. "We stick to the objective. Find Dr. Rostova. Get her out." "Sir," I started, the unease thick in my throat. "This thing we're dealing with?" "I know what it is, Lynn," Miller cut me off, sharper than usual. "Standing still gets us dead faster than moving. Rostova knows how to stop this, or how it works. That's our ticket." He wasn't wrong. Forward was the only direction left. Diaz did a final tug on Peterson's restraints, securing him to a heavy support beam, while I desperately scoured Rostova's spilled notes again. My scanner was useless, scopes fried, but the paper. One desperate scrawl lipped out. "Retrofitted Observation Room C with secondary lead shielding, post-resonance collapse event." "Captain," I called, holding up the note. "Observation Room C, lead-lined, full acoustic seal. If anyone made it..." "It'd be there," Miller finished. "Diaz point. Lynn, keep that sensor sweeping. Give us a heads up the second that thing twitches." The corridors felt tighter after the lab, the silence thicker, pressing down like wet sand. My handheld analyzer flickered constantly, not dramatic spikes, but small, constant ripples moving through the dampening field, like sonar pings, probing, waiting. It was letting us walk right now. The thought made my skin crawl. "Tasting us," I muttered, barely audible. "Focus," Miller ordered, his own knuckles white on his rifle grip. We found Observation Room C tucked down a narrow service passage. The door was thick steel, with a heavy manual deadbolt and wheel, untouched by electronics. Smart in a place where sound was the enemy. "Breach set," Miller confirmed, stepping back. Diaz hefted the ram. I caught a flicker of white at the door's base. "Hold," I hissed. A slip of thin paper was deliberately wedged under the doorframe. Old-school security. Someone bolted themselves in. Miller snapped his fingers at Diaz to stand down, stepped forward and hammered on the steel with the butt of his knife. One sharp rap, then two. "Dr. Rostova, Captain Miller, U.S. Army Special Forces. We're coming in to extract you." Silence. Thicker than before. "Dr. Rostova, confirm your status." Miller tried again, voice pitched to carry through the metal. Nothing. Not a breath. Diaz glanced at Miller, got the sharp nod, and swung the ram. The heavy lock sheared with a loud crack thunk. The door grated on its hinges as Diaz hauled it open, the sound lingering unnaturally in the dead hallway beyond. The observation cell was cramped, maybe a shipping container's worth of space. Every surface, walls, ceiling, even parts of the floor, covered in dense acoustic tiles, thicker than the rest of the facility. Slivers of dull metal peeked through, the lead core. A bare cot, a metal desk, a tiny fridge humming weakly. Everything built for quiet survival. Dr. Ilara Rostova sat ramrod straight at the desk, alive, unharmed, yet frozen. Her eyes were stretched painfully wide, staring fixedly at the blank wall directly in front of her. She didn't react to Miller stepping inside, didn't flinch when Diaz snapped his fingers right beside her ear. Catatonic, I breathed. The word tasted like ash. Shut down, cold. Can she move? Can we carry her? Miller was already assessing her frail frame. Physically sure, but my eyes finally tracked her gaze to the wall. The breath emptied from my lungs like I'd been kicked. The wall wasn't blank. It was a tangled nightmare in thick black marker. Layer upon overlapping layer scrawled in frantic spiraling loops that covered every available inch. The same 5 words, written hundreds, maybe thousands of times, twisting into a suffocating knot. It listens to what you think, too. The words slammed into my gut. My analyzer slipped from my suddenly numb fingers, clattering loud as gunfire on the tiled floor. That god-awful high-pitched whine that had haunted my senses from minute 1 screamed back into my inner ear with vindictive clarity. Suddenly every nightmare piece clicked home. Cap, I whispered, the sound barely scraping out of my tight throat. It's not listening to the comms. It's not hearing what we say. Miller's head snapped from the wall to me, the same horrible understanding dawning in his eyes, wiping away the soldier mask. It's sailing inside, I choked, the pieces locking together with terrible finality. That's how it knew exactly how to rattle each of us, how it mimicked us, perfectly. Why our moves felt predicted. No way, Diaz breathed, but the protest was hollow. His hands were shaking on his weapon. I grabbed at the papers scattered on Rostova's desk, shoving diagrams and fragmented notes at Miller, brainwave patterns, crude sketches, notes on thought-form resonance signatures, and psionic waveform resonance amplification. The project, I said, the horror feeling like ice water in my veins. It wasn't just about boosting sound, making weapons louder, those dampeners, the whole facility. It was built to map, copy, amplify the brain's own signals, our goddamn thoughts. Subject Zero. His terror wasn't just a scream ripped out. It was every thought in his head as he died, distilled, amplified, and somehow made conscious. Miller's face hardened, but a tic played under his left eye. So every tactical decision, it knows before we do, I finished. The weight of it felt like the bunker collapsing on us. Our plan, it reads it. Our fear, a fucking open book. Our weakest spot, highlighted. The utter, uncompromising reality of it crushed down. Tactics were useless. Stealth was a joke. Every instinct screamed run or fight, and it knew both impulses before they fully formed in my head. The soldier in me who lived by planning and order felt cold and dead. "Game over," I mumbled, leaning against the doorframe for support. "The mission, extracting her, fighting it. We're just ghosts already." "Damn it, Lynn," Miller barked, but a sliver of fear fractured the command tone. "Get it together. We adapt. Step 1, haul ass to the surface. Call for whatever exfil doesn't rely on secure comms." Diaz nodded, but the doubt was etched deep on his face. "And her." He jerked his chin at Rostova, still staring eternally at her warning. Miller looked at the frozen scientist, then back at her desperate graffiti. "We take her. Someone back at command might—" A faint sound cut him off. A dry, papery scratching. Rasping. Dr. Rostova's right hand was moving. Slowly, deliberately, her index finger scraped against the metal surface of the desk. Short, precise movements, etching tiny circles. Her unblinking eyes remained locked on the horror show wall, but her finger worked with a terrifying mechanical purpose. Repetitive. Inhuman. I leaned closer, my own breath catching. Not circles. The same symbol we'd seen branded onto consoles, scrawled in the lab. The circle with the jagged lightning slash through its heart. The mark of the resonance. Then, her head tilted sideways, a jerky movement like a puppet with tangled strings. Her jaw opened, but her expression remained a glassy void. The sound that emerged wasn't a voice. It was flat, effectless, devoid of breath or life, like synthesized text read perfectly wrong. It scraped into our ears. "You can't leave because you never arrived." Miller's face hardened. He didn't hesitate. The grip on my vest was solid as he pulled me back from the catatonic doctor. "We're done," he said. The words clipped, sharp, final. The captain was back, pushing the horror down. "Mission abort. Extract ourselves. Now." "Captain," I protested, jerking my head towards Rostova. "Command said—" "Command doesn't know shit about this." Miller cut me off, his eyes glued to Rostova's hand, scratching that symbol over and over. "Look at her, Lynn. There's nothing left to save. She's gone." Diaz shifted his grip on his rifle, knuckles white. "Peterson?" "We bring him," Miller snapped. No debate. "Move out. Double time." Backing away from Rostova felt like peeling off armor. Those empty eyes seemed to follow our retreat, even though her head stayed perfectly still. The lead-lined room had given us shelter, like plunging underwater. Stepping back into the corridor felt like breaking the surface into suffocating water. The heavy sense of being watched slammed down hard. It wasn't just watching, it was dissecting. The walk back to Peterson stretched like a bad dream, our boots unnaturally loud against the sound-absorbing walls despite the silence. I'd walked sniper alleys before, felt the itchy crawl of crosshairs on my back. This was worse, 1,000 times worse. This thing wasn't just sighting me, it was peeling back my skull and taking notes. Miller was checking Peterson's bonds when the noise began. A high-pitched whine. Faint at first, easy to dismiss as faulty wiring or a distant siren failing. It slithered past my ears, settling deep into my bones. Then it climbed, sharpened, dug needles straight into the back of my eyeballs. As we moved, Peterson's unconscious weight dragging my shoulder down with every step, the needle twisted. Deeper. A promise of pain. "It knows," I gasped, shifting Peterson's dead weight. Sweat stung my eyes. "It knows we're trying to bolt, and it's pissed." Miller's jaw tightened. Understood. Keep moving. Tactical retreat. Go. We'd maybe covered 50 meters when the resonance dropped the hammer. It hit each of us where we lived. Miller skidded to a halt first, his rifle jerking towards empty air. His face, pale a second ago, turned chalk white. Carlson? The name cracked. Jenkins? Martinez? He took a stumbling step back. No. Kandahar. You bought it downstairs 3 years back. He wasn't talking to us. He was looking through the concrete walls at ghosts only he saw. Bloody ghosts. Captain! My shout fell flat, soaked up by the heavy air. Ahead, Diaz stopped dead. He stared down a side corridor like it held salvation. The muzzle of his rifle dipped. Elena? His voice, usually a rock drill, cracked like dry kindling. Mija? That you? He took a shaky step forward. Stay there, baby. Don't go. I'm coming, sweetheart. Papa's coming. He lurched down the corridor, a known dead end leading only to a utility closet. Gone. Diaz! It was useless. He was already vanished, chasing phantom promises. I heaved Peterson off my shoulder. The sedative was loosening its grip. He groaned, head lolling against the wall as I propped him up. Then my own show started. Subject: Andre Lynn. Rostova's voice, stripped of life. Broadcast direct to the theater of my skull, orderly mind. Analyzed. Processing weakness found. I clamped my hands uselessly over my ears. Your bones are logic. Your God is signal strength. The cold amusement in the voice was worse than any scream. Shall I explain? Specific frequencies resonate. Your brain floats in fluid. Resonance fractures memory like cheap glass. Your methods make you delightfully predictable. I forced my legs to unlock, staggering towards Miller. Captain! Our heads! It's in our... Miller shoved me back hard, rifle swinging wildly towards a threat that wasn't there. Stay the hell back, he bellowed, face twisted. No one else dies today, not you. Diaz erupted back around the corner. The face staring at Miller wasn't Diaz's. Fury and raw, soul-deep betrayal twisted it. You knew! Diaz spat, the words thick with venom. He leveled his rifle straight at Miller's chest. You lying bastard. You knew they were here all along. You kept leading us deeper, working for it. Diaz, stand down. My body moved before I finished the thought, stepping into the kill zone between muzzle and man. It's inside your skull. It's lying to you. Get down, Lynn. Diaz's growl was gravel ground under a boot heel. His finger was tense on the trigger. He wasn't planning on us getting out, ever. Miller's face snapped into the captain's mask. Absolute command. Sergeant Diaz, lower. Your weapon. Final order. Orders from a corpse mean nothing, Diaz sneered. You won't keep me from my family. His finger tightened. I lunged, too late. The shot cracked out. It went wide where Miller had been standing, slamming into equipment paneling. Miller reacted without thought. Pure muscle memory drilled through years of firefights. Center mass, 3 rounds. Diaz jolted backwards like a puppet with cut strings. He crashed to his knees, but his trigger finger spasmed tightly once more as he dropped. The single shot hit true. Miller staggered back, his yell bubbling thickly into a wet gurgle. Bright red arterial oxygen sprayed between the fingers clamped desperately over his throat. He hit the wall and slid down, eyes wide with disbelief. The silence after the gunfire was a physical blow, deafening. My ears rang, but worse was the utter stillness. I stood rooted between my dead and dying. Diaz lay face down on the concrete, utterly still staring down the phantom corridor. Miller sat propped against the wall, drowning silently on dry land. Blood pulsed dark through his fingers. His eyes found mine. Some awful clarity surfaced through the shock, through the pain. Blood-flecked lips worked silently. One slick hand fumbled weakly at his belt. Unclipped something. Small, black, roughly the size of a hockey puck. He pressed it clumsily into my palm. His blood smeared slick and warm. Run. His lips shaped the word, a final silent gasp. Then the desperate intelligence in his eyes blinked out like a dying screen. Fixed. Blank. I couldn't look at Diaz. Just gone. Alone. The quiet settled. Oppressive. Watching. Peterson groaned louder, his blinking eyes clearing behind his filthy goggles. I couldn't carry him. Not far. Not fast. The certainty of it crunched down on my chest like a hydraulic press, shattering something vital deep inside. "I'm sorry," I breathed, the apology useless as I backed away from him. The beacon in my hand was suddenly heavy as a tank shell. The extraction button screamed silently at me. Push it, and help would come. Help that would march blameless into this hell. The high-pitched whine surged back into my head, deeper, slower, intense. It wasn't just sound anymore. It felt like pressure, like infinite cold curiosity wrapping around my thoughts. Entity-level hunger. "Found you." The voice scraped raw across the inside of my skull. No mask now. Shockingly intimate. Pure malice given a sound. No escape. I ran. Not towards the surface, not towards the nightmare above and the sunlight I might never see again. I ran deeper, down, away from Miller, away from Diaz, away from Peterson stirring on the cold floor. No plan exploded in my shattered mind, only instinct, pure animal panic tearing at the leash that had been duty. And behind me, keeping a pace that never closed distance but never lengthened either, the sound of phantom footsteps matched my pounding boots exactly. Tap, tap, tap. They aren't echoing off the soundproofed walls. They're thudding down the tainted pathways deep inside my own head. The corridors stretched before me like the throat of some great beast, swallowing me deeper. Soundproofed panels, dim recessed lights, the suffocating quiet broken only by my own ragged gasps and the phantom footsteps pacing me, but I knew they were real. Tap, tap, tap. Matching my stride step for step. Slow down they slowed. Sprint they kept perfect time. Not an echo. A shadow made of sound. I skidded to a stop at an intersection, slamming my back against the wall, fighting for air. Think, Lynn. Think. Rostova's notes. The resonance. Subject 0. The sound that became something more. "It's hooked into the system," I rasped, the idea hitting me hard. The central server. The whole damn power grid. The thing was stuck here for a reason. It lived inside this sealed acoustic tomb, in the wires, the speakers, the very walls of Facility 7. "Clever little soldier," the voice slid into my thoughts, thick with weariness and an ancient cold. "But you're thinking too loud. An invisible force slammed into me, crushing. My ears popped sharp as I crashed onto the opposite wall. Warm blood trickled from my nose onto my lips. "Server room," I choked out, forcing myself upright. 2 levels down, central corridor. Overload the system. Force a feedback loop big enough to fry the core data banks. Wipe it clean. I ran again, driven by pure, desperate purpose. The map clicked into place. Next doorway, then a stairwell heading down. The entity's presence thickened, oily and heavy, sensing my plan. That high-pitched whine drilled into my skull, vibrating my teeth. "What you seek is 3 doors down, across from the primary junction box," it mocked, ripping the knowledge from my memory before I could even form the thought. "I'll be waiting." The stairwell door slammed shut, inches from my grasp. I yanked the handle. Nothing. The metal itself hummed under my palms, locked solid by a wall of condensed sound waves. "You're just noise," I hissed, teeth gritted. "Just data. Just a goddamn recording." Drawing my sidearm, I fired point blank into the control panel. The gunshot was deafening in the cramped space. Sparks showered out, the pressure on the door eased just enough. I wrenched it open and stumbled through. The server room was exactly as remembered. A vast, humming cavern choked with rows of equipment racks. Green and red status lights blinked like malevolent eyes in the gloom. The heart of the Resonance's world. As I crossed the threshold, every monitor flickered to life. Each showed the same pulsing waveform, the jagged visual imprint of Subject Zero's death scream. Why destroy what you cannot grasp? The voice felt smoother now, almost reasonable. Hypnotic. You could join us, become so much more, oh much. My hands flew across the main terminal. Security protocols bypassed. Power management accessed. Behind me, the entity raged. Heavy equipment racks groaned and toppled with metallic shrieks. Cables whipped through the air like angry snakes. Another crushing barrage of sound waves slammed me into the console. I tasted copper, my vision swimming. I rerouted primary power, forcing it on an endless self-destructive loop. Fingers hammered the keyboard. The final command sequence executed. "Feedback loop initiated," the screen flashed. Red letters screamed the warning. "Catastrophic system failure imminent." Red lights pulsed overhead like a frantic heartbeat. Emergency alarms wailed for the first time in this nightmare. The facility's own death scream. "You think this ends me?" The voice saturated the air, filled my skull, became the only thing. I am the sound of death itself. I transcend. The room erupted into an impossible noise storm. Every captured sound the entity owned vomited out. Miller barking commands, Diaz cursing, Peterson whimpering, my own voice speaking fragments, and beneath it all, swelling into horrifying purity, the original Subject Zero scream, the raw, perfect sound of absolute human terror. I jammed my hands over my ears. Useless. The sound wasn't outside. It was in me, born in the folds of my own brain. Power died with a final shuddering blaze of sparks. Emergency systems choked off. Total, absolute darkness swallowed me whole. Silence. Finally. A true, aching stillness that rang in its own emptiness. I stumbled through the pitch-black corridors, guided only by touch and fading memory, feeling my way along the wall, up the emergency stairwell, through access tunnels slick with unseen wetness, past the places where Miller and Diaz lay, bodies cooling in the dark, past Peterson, whatever remained of him. Shoving the heavy surface hatch open, I collapsed onto the sand. Dawn bled into the sky over the Utah desert. The air was clean, sharp, alive with the whisper of wind and the distant cry of a bird. I lay on my back shaking, laughing, sobbing, I couldn't tell. It was over. The resonance was contained, destroyed, erased. I lay there waiting for an evac team I'd never called. The desert silence settled over me like a blanket. Then I heard it. Faint at first. A high-pitched tone. The familiar, thin whine. It wasn't coming up from the dead facility beneath the sand. It pulsed from somewhere deep, solid, vibrating, behind my eyes.